Career Conversations. I'm Meera Jogasundram. Our guest today, Aristotle Motii Nandy.
Yes, hi,
He is
Mira.
an educator with more than 20 years of experience working with learners from preschool to postgraduate levels. At 30, he was the principal of an international school in Jakarta and subsequently a consultant to a group of schools in the region, helping in the setup of school curricula, systems, and policies. He has also conducted teacher and parent development workshops and seminars in Singapore, Indonesia, India, and the United States. A former journalist with CNA, Channel News Asia in Singapore, and IT Asia in Hong Kong, he is at times involved in producing documentaries and other media related projects. He is also the founder of Spiriton Renaissance International, an enterprise aimed at cultivating the human spirit and fostering a culture of service and introspection through a synthesis of science and spirituality. Together with his brother, Aris created Bhagavad Gita Quest, the world's first board game education set based on the teachings and values of the Bhagavad Gita, an ancient Vedic text. Hi, Aris.
Hi, Mira. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm getting on. Back in
How's the
Singapore.
weather in Singapore?
Well, today is pretty good actually. I mean, it was fair and then it was raining for a while, then it was fair again.
How
Yeah, sometimes it changes quite a bit.
is it warm?
Today is not too warm, but some days it could be quite warm, yes.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling, I was a bit tired today in the morning, but now here we are at about 11 p.m. at night. So
Thank you. Thank you, Ariel, for making time. I know you must be exhausted, so thank you so much for making time. Let's dive straight into it. Please tell us about your career journey.
okay, it's interesting. I mean, now I'm an educator, but when I first started out, I actually did accountancy in school. And I mean, I was in NTU and I was doing accountancy. And what happened that caused me to uh, s- veer away from my chosen path, so to speak, right? It was my final semester and I had a professor from Canada and his name was JJ. I'm not going to uh, block out his name, and he was talking about different types of accounting theories, right? So there is, if you're familiar with accounting, there is the cost accounting and there is current accounting, and so the what's I don't want to get too technical here, but what was prevalent in the accounting field is that everyone sticks to a historical cost accounting because it's something which you can it's more objective, so to speak. They say, but my professor was interested in a current accounting model where the prices keep changing according to the times, right? At, to be more up to date. And so during the examination, I critiqued I criticized the questions, the fundamental assumptions of questions, and I flunked that module. And it was the only module that I had flunked, and I only had two modules that semester. And it so happened that actually I already had a job with KPMG secured um, before the final exam, before the final semester, right? And because I had flunked that, I lost that job, and I went to appeal because I did what we did in the classroom, but they said no one could help me. And when I went to the university, they didn't, and I appealed. They didn't even get back to me until the final day when I had to actually re-register for the next semester. And so I was very upset. I told myself I'm never going to work in accounting again. So I did the final, I did the final, the extra module again, and I gave them the answers that they wanted. The professor JD, he didn't want to help me. He said he couldn't help me, and I realized that all the other students, my friends in the class, they actually didn't listen to him, and they just followed what was conventional. So anyhow, long story short, I flunked that module and I did it again and I passed it, and then I didn't work in accounting again. I didn't decide to forget that accounting field, business field,
Why was that? Why is that?
because I thought that it was. I felt shortchanged. I felt very upset that it was something we discussed in the classroom, and the professor was advocating it, right? Which was going against the grain of what accounting theory, the conventional accounting theory is or was. And so what happened was that when I went to him, he said he couldn't help me, and what was even more disturbing was that when I appealed, they didn't get back to whether my appeal was successful or not. So I said, I mean, why am I just going to be in the field? And I thought that if once you fail and know you're behind time, in Singapore, the system is such that it might be like a stigma. So I just moved to a different a field, and so happened that I became a journalist, which was, I think, the best first job that anyone can have. So Channel News Asia in Singapore was really, really a good learning ground because you got to see everything from politics to business to sports to education to crime. You actually get to know the victims of crime and even the criminals. But in any case, that provided me with a very good learning curve about life and about the world that we live in. Yeah. Oh, and how did I move to education? Right. Um, so then I went to Hong Kong because Hong Kong, what IT Asia, the company in Singapore, had a branch in Hong Kong, and they wanted me to do some work there.
Okay,
And
wait. Before that, Aris, could we just backtrack? I mean, how did you make the transition, or why? How did it happen from
um,
Channel News Asia Singapore to IT Asia Hong Kong?
okay, so at that time you're young and you're full of energy and you want to explore the world, so to speak. And that opportunity came, and I thought that, well, on hindsight, I should have stayed longer in Channel News Asia, to be honest, right? I was just ambitious, and I thought, okay, maybe I could go to Hong Kong. And actually, Hong Kong was good because Hong Kong was at that time 2000 actually, just the handover from China, and the .com was bubbling, the .com era, and there was a lot of venture capitalists going on, and so I in IT Asia you get to meet, um, you actually interview the CEOs and CTOs of CEOs of like the top companies like Boeing, and the what all those at the cutting edge of technology and users of technology. So so that was a very amazing experience because I got to see the other side of the the technological world and where the money is flowing, etc., so to speak. And but in Hong Kong, the lifestyle is like it's more vibrant than Singapore at that time. Now I'm not sure how it is, but at that time it was like very vibrant. But the thing is, the office was really small, only like two staff or three staff, and I was doing a lot of the writing for the magazines, for the titles coming out from Hong Kong. And I had an opportunity to go to Silicon Valley at that time, but my supervisor in Singapore, who was my friend, he didn't give me that. He thought that I just had to man the Hong Kong office, but it would have been good if I'd gone to Silicon Valley at the time. But at that time, that didn't work out. And so after a while, I thought that there was not real much meaning in the work that I was doing. And a lot of people would be calling me for meetings and parties and stuff like that, so to speak, because they and give you gifts because they want you to write about them in IT Asia so much. So it was very super superficial, if I could put it that way. So I thought that I should quit, and I went to backpack, and I went to Indonesia actually.
Okay, let me just stop you there. You
Okay,
wanted to go to Silicon Valley. It didn't work out.
it didn't work out because I got an invite. I got like a free invite to go to Silicon Valley to cover some stories there for the IT companies. But my colleague in Singapore, who was at that time the editor in Singapore, um, made the call that I shouldn't go and leave the Hong Kong office empty. I mean, unmanned, so to speak, right? But I mean, I had gone to Sweden for a short trip before that, Stockholm for the Ericsson. So I didn't know what was the issue there. But anyhow, so the decision was made. I was disappointed, but hey, that's life.
Okay, so
And
you wanted to go to Silicon Valley, it didn't work out, and when you staying in the Hong Kong office, that you found yourself dealing with lots of superficial requests, superficial work.
well, I found it to be hollow, like, in the sense there wasn't much
Okay,
substance in the meaning. But for some people, they might find it great. It's just I didn't find it.
understood, understood.
I
Okay,
didn't find
got it.
it. Yeah, and there was a takeover taking place of this Singapore office by some venture capitalists, that
Okay.
ITH. Yeah, and so I noticed that there was, ground was shaking, so to speak. And so I thought that it might be good for me not to just stay on. I mean, I believe this, since this is a about career. I believe there's two-way thing. You must be able to contribute to the company, and the organization must be also be able to contribute to your growth. So it's a two-way thing. It's not just you go and take, and or they take from you. It's got to be mutually, you can say, beneficial to both. I mean, grow. It helps both parties grow. The company grow, and the individual must grow. And I didn't
How
think I was going to grow there, so I thought I should move. Yeah,
how accurate would it be to say that the values of the company or your work were no longer aligned with your own values, individual values and principles? And that's why you wanted to move out of Hong Kong.
I wouldn't say that actually. I would say that I didn't think that there was any growth potential for me. You see, sometimes when you can, it depends on the rate that you grow in a company, right? In the organization. If you grow very fast in a very short period of time, and then you realize there's not much scope to go further because the structures are such, the structural
Yes.
impedance, so to speak. Then, and not only structural, right, but also the other human factors involved. You have to learn from each other. That's very important. You need to have a mentor within the organization. You need to have colleagues which you can spar cognitively, intellectually, right? Uh, that's really, really important for growth. It's not just the money, or it's not just the position. It's got to be. I mean, some people may consider that to be that's all, but for me, I need to have that interaction and growth, and that's really, really important. Yeah,
So you wanted something more.
I felt something was missing. Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know whether I wanted something more, but
Something was missing. Okay, let me yeah. So the accurate thing to say would be something was missing, so you decided to move out.
yeah, I had in school, in secondary school, I had we there was we were our school was quite active in drama. We had drama for every class, and inter-house drama, inter-class drama, that kind of thing. And one of the themes of the drama I still remember was called "Find Me."
Ah,
And I think, and that stayed with me. I thought that was very, very good. Find me. I think that's something which a lot of people don't think about. They don't think about finding themselves. And like even Socrates, right, says know thyself. So, or is it Plato? I can't remember now.
you know what, Aries? It just brings to mind certain things. You were talking about finding yourself when you were a teenager, right? There are people in their 50s or late 50s who still are finding themselves.
Which is good.
So there is no age. Yeah, the process never ends. Coming back to what you were saying.
So, so the whole thing is that after that, I went to Indonesia, and I ended up backpacking from Jakarta to Bali, and then from Bali after that I got to go to East Timor actually. That was
Why,
when East.
Aries, why backpacking and why those countries?
Okay, that's a long story. I don't know. But anyhow, just to keep the to make it concise, I ended up in crossing the border, which was no man's land between West Timor and East Timor. At that time, the United Nations was there because East Timor had just split from Indonesia,
Yeah.
and that was in 2001. And I was on the boat from Bali to Kupang, which is on Timor Island, and that's a 24-hour boat ride. I mean, like a ship, and that's on that ship. I saw there was a TV on the ship, right? It was. I mean, we were sleeping on the floor and everything, but there was a TV there, and the 9/11 took place. So we actually saw the two planes go into the twin towers. And at that time, somehow I also lost my wallet. Someone stole my wallet,
You lost your
and
wallet.
I
Oh,
had because I had diarrhea, and then I had to go to the toilet, and my bag was there. So a lot of things happened, and then I ended up in Atambu. I ended up in Kupang. I mean, I ended up in Dili, which is the capital of East Timor, and I stayed in the freedom fighters' house, the Fretlin, the guys who were fighting the
this
Indonesian
is
army.
something that you wanted to do.
No, I didn't even
No.
plan it. Yeah,
Okay.
it just came, and I never planned to do all these things. Things just happen.
Okay.
And I think that was interesting. So in the end, I came back and I got a job in Jakarta as a teacher because I was thinking of signing on with because I felt teaching was probably the most suitable profession for me because I felt that it would be more meaningful interacting with young minds and I think greater impact to the world.
So
And so
all this, before you proceed, all this was, would it be right to say, find the process of finding yourself?
finding what is the right fit, yes.
Yes. Okay.
So so it so happened that I was hired by this international school in at that time because Suharto had just fallen in 1998, right around that period, and Chinese and a lot of Indonesian Chinese especially were sending their children overseas to Singapore, to Australia, etc. But because they couldn't learn Mandarin in Indonesia, and so after the fall of Suharto, there was it's like a perestroika of sorts in the East German. But it opened up, and so this people in Indonesia felt that okay, let's start our own schools with an international curriculum and Cambridge, IB, etc., and let our children stay with us and learn Mandarin. They don't have to be away from their parents. So the school took a chance. They hired Singapore teachers who were qualified teachers. I was not a trained teacher from NIE, but they hired me. Right, I was one. The rest were all trained teachers. And so what happened was he was a good mentor, right? So I was able to do a lot of things in that school. The school had only 40 students when I joined the school in 2001. By the time I left the school in 2005, at three campuses with about 2,000 students. And and I got to attend all the meetings when they are starting new schools, all the board meetings, etc. And because of that, his name is Mr. Lee. I mean, it's very, very I'm grateful to him for allowing me to develop because he could see that I was enthusiastic in education. I was doing uh, a lot of stuff. So the learning curve was extremely steep. So the importance of getting the right opportunity and not just looking at okay, this guy's got so much experience or not experience, etc. That's very, very important. So he saw perhaps some potential that I had in doing it, and he gave me the opportunity. So in the end, when they opened a new campus, he asked me whether I would like to be the principal, whether I would be willing to be the principal of that campus. I was already a vice principal in the flagship campus, but I thought there would be other people who were really had the qualification, so to speak. But he said he trusted me. That's what he said. He said, I trusted you. Because I said, what about this other person who was already an experienced principal for over 15 years? He said, trust me. So that was interesting because in that school, the new campus, I could actually run the school, and it was really, really good because in 1 year, we had our first music production, we had inter-house competitions, we had prefectorial board, we had a lot of things going on in the school. We had parent teacher association, which was all done in a year, which was quite amazing. I mean, and there was a competitor school there, which was there for a very long time, and it was a Singapore-based school, but in the end, a lot of students from there came over to our school. So that's very interesting. Yeah. So, but my point is that opportunity was given, regardless of seeing. Okay, what? sometimes we like to see how many years experience they have, how much qualifications they have, all these other things. They don't see the potential of the person. And I think
Absolutely.
and that has actually um, made you can say it caused a certificate or qualification inflation, so to speak, because actually the qualification is just being being pursued for the sake of having it, but the substance of the skill or the disposition or the attitude or the value is lacking. and
So
and
true.
yeah, and so he didn't care about that in a sense, right? I mean, there was some amount of qualification needed, skill needed, but that's not the main thing for giving the opportunity for development of potential. I think that was something which I have to say that you got to take my hat off to him for doing that. And he gave me that freedom also. So when I was principal, I could hire someone even if they didn't have a teaching certification, so to speak. And we got a good team, right? So in the end, from the team in the new campus that we had, I think 3 or 4 of them became principals when the school expanded further after I left. So that's really really important. You need to develop the people who have potential, and that was my real learning point there. Yeah, correct.
What impact did the backpacking, living amidst turmoil, and then moving to Jakarta, being given the leadership responsibilities, what impact has that had on you and your career?
The backpacking didn't have anything on my career, lah, I would say. But nice stories to tell the children in school. They'll be, oh, you went there and stuff like that. So it's very important. I mean, your personal stories are very important to when you share with the students, because teaching is not about just the subject matter. It's about connecting with the students. And when you connect with people, then there is greater buy-in to what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So then the discipline problems will be reduced in the classroom, etc. So that's really really important. People don't realize it. People think that it's about the curriculum, it's about the content of the curriculum. Content of the curriculum is not the real thing. It is not really the cognitive domain that matters more. It's actually the affective domain. Affective domain means the emotional part, the affinity that we have for something. That affinity is the one that causes people to want to pursue something in greater depth, in greater detail, with more enthusiasm, etc. So sometimes we think it's just the cognitive, okay, we are checking the boxes and things like that, but that doesn't really motivate people. That doesn't really get people going, doesn't get things done actually. Well, it could with force, right? But that's not going to be lasting. It doesn't, it's just temporary. Yeah.
Well said, Aris. So, what happened after Jakarta, after being principal in the school?
So okay, I came back to Singapore. I got married, right, and then I was working. Okay, that's interesting. How I When I came back to Singapore, I when I when I left the job, it's
Okay, now,
because
now I'm curious. Why did
why?
you like the job in Jakarta? Right,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
liked it very much.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
why
correct.
did you leave?
Okay, so this is a very touchy thing, because actually I gave them 9 months notice. It's because I did not agree with one of the policies that was being done, which is to have an accelerated program for some students, because a accelerated program means you can do from Sec 1 to 5 years and do A level straight. They call it a Chu train, like in Singapore, the accelerated program, so to speak. So I felt that okay, you could do it with some students, you couldn't do it with all students, or couldn't do it with yeah, you could do it only with the best students who have that aptitude, right? So I didn't agree with that, and there was, and because of that, I decided to leave actually. So that's quite sad, because I liked it, I liked being there, etc. But I couldn't push a program I could push for the best students, but I couldn't push for the mediocre academically achieving students to do the accelerated program. I felt that was not um, that would not be proper from my perspective, right? For them to rush through the syllabus when they are actually struggling, right? The good students, they can do it easily. For me, that's fine, but I couldn't do it for the weaker students. So anyhow, so I connected with someone called Ron Kaufman. Maybe you might know of him. He is a world famous customer service guru, renowned. He built SQ, etc. And he was just about to start this Up Your Service, um,
Okay, just for our viewers, what is SQ?
Singapore Airlines.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Our viewers may not what is
yeah,
SQ, may
yeah,
not know what's SQ.
yeah,
Okay, Singapore Airlines,
yeah,
the customer service guru Ron Kaufman. All right, and then
yeah. So I wrote to him, and he was start. He asked me to come and meet him when I come back to Singapore, and I started to work with him. So that was a very very good. He was also a very wonderful colleague and boss and friend, and actually he really took the level of what it means to mentor the employee and connect with the employee and take the interest of the employee at heart to the zenith. He's like the best employer you could ever imagine,
what
right?
was the nature of your job when you were working with Ron?
Ron, so it was, he was just starting out at the time, so working out from his apartment. And it was building I was doing two things. One is communications, all right, and then second is developing the procedures and SOPs within the for the starting of the organization, right? So because the nature of the job is nature of the institution is that he produces courses for courseware for MNCs, right? And then there are manuals to be produced, the computer system where you connect with the distributors, etc., licensing, and there's a lot of things. I mean, I can't possibly explain this here because it's a it was a startup at that time. There were only four people involved, right? And so you do a lot of things in a sense, right? But the learning was immense. Learning was immense. I think that was probably next to the school in Jakarta. The learning at Ron Kaufman was, in terms of the business side of things, was immense. But I had to leave because actually I wanted to go and study drama do my masters and do drama in Australia. But before that, an acquaintance came and stayed in my home in 2006, and he was going to start a school in Bali, a non-profit school. And so my wife and I decided to abandon the going to Australia, and then we went to Bali and we started a non-profit school there.
How
So
long were you working with Ron?
just about a year, just a year
Okay, so after a year, you moved to Bali to teach as well?
to start the school. Actually, that was like from start. That one you're building from scratch. That means marketing, um, painting the walls, fixing the furnitures, designing the building, um, cleaning cleaning the premises, that kind of thing. Developing the curriculum, hiring teachers, training the teachers, looking for students, talking to parents. So whatever I've learned in Ron and with Ron and at Bina Bangsa, I put it together. And but the school in Bali was different because it was for um, uh, developing character and bringing about change in society in terms of the principles of science and spirituality. Yeah. So that was something which we were there for some time, and yeah, that's the story. Long story short.
Okay, so Bali, you were there for how long?
So okay, so I was there because off and on. I was also in solo at the time because I had to take a job to help to fund because that was free pro bono work I was doing in Bali, and so I was going back and forth from in Jakarta as well as in solo. So at first I was Jakarta 3 days, Bali 4 days, that kind of thing, and then solo 4 days, Bali 3 days. So I was doing that until 20 for about 3.5, 4 years probably. Yeah, 27, 28, 29, 20. Yeah, 4 years I was doing that, and then by the time the school was established, and then I moved back to Singapore because my mom had an accident. And
I can't hear you. Sorry.
I moved back to Singapore because my mom had an accident.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she was knocked down by a bus actually,
Oh dear.
and in Musling, and then so we came back, and then um, yeah, like that lah. So then I decided to. That's when I developed the Bhagavad Gita game, to printed it, and the Bhagavad Gita quest. This is my brother and I. We developed the. Oh, sorry, sorry. Huh?
Okay, this is interesting. Now, I no no. Please flash it on the screen, Aris, because I'd like to take a good look at it. Now, this is a board game, right?
Yes.
Okay, excuse my ignorance. You can move it to the center, please.
Now.
A bit more. Yeah. Okay. So, is it something like? Okay, thank you. Enough. Is it something like snakes and ladders?
No, it's not.
Okay, tell us what it is like. What it's like.
Okay, the whole idea of this game, first of all, is for parents to spend time with their children,
Okay.
because by playing the game, they will interact and have fun with the children. Second is for them to discuss the values and teachings of the Bhagavad Gita through that interaction in the board game.
Which is a Vedic text.
Yeah, it's an ancient Vedic text, which is the summary of the philosophical summary of all the Vedas.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's studied by great philosophers of ancient times, right? Even in modern times, you can see great philosophers, Oppenheimer and all these people, right? They actually studied Hegel and all these great scientists of the you can see the Enlightenment, and after that modern scientists, they all do study Bhagavad Gita because it's got so much of great wisdom and truth, right? So so the idea is, in playing the game, the players get to learn about the Bhagavad Gita by answering questions about the Bhagavad Gita. And so there are different levels of questions. There are 3 different packs of cards. One are for really small, young children, or those who have no idea of the Bhagavad Gita, because there is multiple choice, and then there are answers where they can refer to, and then there is reference to the text of the Bhagavad Gita, so they can read up. If they want, parents can read up about it and learn more about it and share with their children, right? So the idea is to go around the board, which represents the material world that we live in, right? And there are good qualities or good characteristics, good values, good virtues that you can that you land on the spaces, and there are also spaces which represent undesirable qualities which we need to avoid, right? So along that process of going around the board, they have to collect what we call the bhakti cards, 4 cards, which represent the weapons of blessings of Lord Vishnu. So the conch, the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma.
Yes. The symbols, right? Of the different avatars. To put it this way, avatars.
Yeah, the different symbols you can call it, but actually they are weapons of blessings.
Yeah.
Right. So they give blessings to. So, what is that? So the idea is to collect all 4 while going around the board and while answering the questions, and eventually come to that token or that square or that space where it says, "I give myself to the Lord." So at the end of it, they go around. They learn the Bhagavad Gita that way. In a fun way.
What a fun way to learn. Would this be a good time to play the video for our viewers?
Oh, sure. If you'd like to now, that might be
yeah, because viewers, this video gives an introduction to the board game that Aris so beautifully described. I'm going to play it now for you. Just a minute. You know what, Eris?
Yeah.
I find it intriguing. I find
Okay.
it intriguing. Where can you get this game?
Online, www.bhagavadgitaquest.net.
Okay, so that is the link that you have sent to me, right?
I don't remember.
Spiriton, Spiriton.
Okay, yeah, you can from Spiriton. It's connected to the Bhagavad
Okay,
Gita.
so viewers, this board game, if you're watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, the link to this board game, or you can access this board game via the description. The link is given in the description. LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. I can't say the same for Instagram and Twitter because it doesn't facilitate that. Wow, Eris, this is such a genius idea. And the first board game, Bhagavad Gita. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is actually
How has the response been?
well. We have this is our second version, and it's almost sold out. We only have 40 sets left actually.
Okay, so would you be producing more sets if required?
I'm thinking of doing it in different languages now, but yeah, I'm just settled because I just completed my PhD, so I'm just settling down. I
Okay,
just,
okay. Now that is another huge topic that I would love for you to talk about. Now, so you created this board game, and then tell us about how
yeah,
Spiriton Renaissance was created.
yeah, with my brother. So I just have to say, actually, this was done with my brother. So artwork and everything, and the poem. If they get to read the poem on the online, they will see that it's a beautiful poem which summarizes the philosophy
I
of
love
life.
the design.
Yeah, thank you.
Your brother, as in Ashok, right?
Yeah, you remember him, huh? Ashok,
Of
yes.
course, of course. Okay. So both of you created this, and both of you also created Spiriton Renaissance.
Spiriton, I was it's my sole proprietorship in Singapore that I started.
Okay.
And so the idea behind Spiriton, first of all, what is Spiriton, right? So Spiriton is actually a word coined by Dr. T.D. Singh, who is the international director of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And uh, Dr. Singh, he was at the forefront of the synthesis of science and spirituality
Could you
to bring.
hold the cover of the book for us? Seven Nobel laureates on science and spirituality by
Yes,
Dr. T.D. Singh.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
So this so the whole idea is that, yeah, there is this material, the physical paradigm we have, and the spiritual paradigm. And these two paradigms are normally seen as antithetical to each other, like totally different, mutually exclusive kind of thing. So he was trying to show that there is a synthesis. We need to have a synthesis of both parts if we want to actually have world peace, because people exploit science and misuse or abuse science. At the same time, people also abuse religion or
Yes,
spirituality.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So to synthesize the values and the positive of both is really, really important to bring about a change in the direction of which the world is going. However, the positivist or the mechanistic view of life, where everything is just matter, right, is limiting that transition into where we can have a more holistic kind of a approach to living and life,
Yeah.
and even our interactions with each other, right? So the electron is from the physical sciences, right? And the spiriton represents, actually is a word to represent the atomic spiritual particle, or the soul, if you like it. So spiriton renaissance is to bring about an awakening or understanding about the spiritual dimension of life, understanding, finding me, which we talked about earlier. Who am I, right? Because our bodies are made of these electrons, atoms, molecules, which are electrons and neutrons, etc., leptons and quarks, right? If you like. But there is that dimension in us which is not these things, because when a person leaves the body, right? When end of the life, the body is still there, but the person is gone. So where,
The soul, Aries, is beyond all these material definitions.
yes, correct. It is, although it's beyond because it's inconceivable, right, to us,
Yeah.
but it exists because the symptom of the soul is consciousness. We are conscious, whereas matter is not conscious. Yeah. So no matter what we talk about AI, there is really no self consciousness of the AI.
Well said.
Right.
Well said. Okay, so what exactly do you do at Spiriton Renaissance?
So most of my work is so far has been the game, right? Seminars and workshops. I do parent workshops connecting with children, positive discipline, teacher workshops also, right? Working with students. I also do besides the board game. I came up with like the books which is related to science and spirituality.
So this book is written by you,
Well, it's compiled. So this is a
compiled
compilation.
by you.
Yeah, this is compiled.
Reflections for the Soul. Okay.
And then I've got some other books, but I didn't bring out here to show you. But it's for children. Um, so most of it has been non-profit work, lah. But
No, I think it's very admirable, Aris. Now, this book, Reflections for the Soul, how might one purchase it?
it's also on the Spiriton website.
Okay, all that you're talking about can be found on your Spiriton website, right?
Yes, Spiriton website is the main website, and everything
Okay,
can.
great. So you do a lot of outreach programs
Well, for the
for
past
children.
for past 3 years, because last year I was in Auckland, and past the 2 years before that was COVID, and it was different. Yeah,
Okay, so while Spiriton is going on,
yeah,
I presume you decided to do your PhD.
yes, correct.
Okay, tell us about that. How you decided on doing it, why, and the subject matter, how you decided on it, and all that. That would
Okay,
be something very interesting.
yeah. So the whole idea is about character education. My focus of my PhD, actually, my master's also was focused on character education. So the idea behind that is we talk about leveling up in society, right? Everyone talks about if there was no poverty in the world, then there'll be no crime. Crime is because of poverty, right? We already get most of it. Most of the time, we hear that narrative. But I'm saying that actually that's really the meaning of humanity, right? To say that because we are faced with poverty, that's why we have to commit crime. That's really the meaning of human beings, right? But we at the same time we see that even those who are not poor are committing a lot of crime.
You can say that again. And
I mean,
you know
I
what,
mean,
Aris?
yeah.
Those who are not poor and very, very rich, they commit crimes and they get away with it.
I'm not saying anything. That's your. But but the point is that it is for me that is not really the leveling up society. Not through the economic gains, through education, so that everyone can have a better life, and then there'll be no more crime. I think that's really not the crux of it. The crux of it is the character of the individual. And it's from the ancients, right? The ancient Greeks, whether it's Aristotle or Plato or the Stoics,
Your namesake.
my namesake, yes, correct. And then the Chinese civilizations, Confucius, Taoism, right? Even you talk about some of the Western Enlightenment philosophers, right? There was an emphasis on character or on the virtues of the person, right? Or whether it's a sense of duty, whether it's a sense of the greatest good for the majority or whatever, right? The idea was some amount of the development of the individual person. So,
Yes.
so that is really the crux of the matter because regardless of the situation in life, they find themselves in, that character will enable them to do the right thing. Because you see, we have our public life, which everyone can see.
Yeah,
We have our private life, which maybe our close friends and family can see. But what really goes on is our inner life.
absolutely.
And that inner life no one sees. So when someone says, "Oh, this guy's acting out of character," we don't even know he's acting out of character because we don't know what's in a life.
Yeah.
So I hope, right, that I mean, one of the purpose of my study is so that we look into the real underpinnings of what is character and how we see ourselves, right? Finding ourselves, seeing the world around us, seeing the relationships between everything in the world, ourselves with the world, is really, really important, right? Because then we will be able to make a holistic judgment. Now we're talking about environmental problem and this and that, but come on, we are asking about people not to use straws because or trying to cut down. I know now there's something called SAF, so they use some the new fuel for airplanes so that it doesn't pollute the world. But when people are building weapons in the billions of dollars,
And killing billions of animals every day
animals and people and
for
everything,
consumption.
and then they're saying, okay, look, we need to save the environment. That's the greatest hypocrisy ever, right?
Absolutely.
So we are, and then it's just funding one business after another. Actually, that's what they're doing. It's not really addressing the root of the problem. So it's a smoke screen after smoke screen after smoke screen. It's like Plato's cave. Some people are holding the puppets. Are you familiar with Plato's cave? Okay, Plato's
Explain,
cave.
please.
Everyone should get to read this book called The Republic by Plato, which is an amazing book. Anyhow, there's one chapter I think in book 4 or book 5. I can't remember. I think book 4. It's about this. There are people at the end of the cave, and they are chained. Their hands and their feet are chained, and they're facing the wall of the cave.
Okay.
They get to see the shadows on the wall, right? So imagine, right? You're all tied up, and then you see the shadows on the wall, and you hear sounds. And then you talk about the shadows, you talk about the sounds, and you're discussing all that. But you don't realize that actually at the back, at the middle of the cave, there is actually an elevated space, and there's a fire, and there are people who are controlling some puppets and making sounds. So the echoes that the sound from the sounds that they make is what those people who are chained are hearing, and the shadows are what are the movements done by the people who are at the center of the cave. So one guy, he somehow breaks free. That's what Plato says, right? Or Socrates is narrating it. Someone breaks free from that chain, and he turns around and he sees that the mouth of the cave there is a very bright light, and it's attractive to him. And so he moves, right? He struggles through the cave because the light is quite bright, right? And it's blinding. And as he comes past the middle of the cave, he sees, oh, there are actually some people who are actually having some puppets and making those sounds. And but he still continues until he reaches the mouth of the cave, entrance of the cave, and he comes out, and it's so blinding the light, the sunlight, that it takes a while to adjust. And then he sees, wow, fresh air and bright many trees and animals and lakes and everything. And he says, wow, this is amazing. I must go back in and I must tell all my friends and family about this. So he turns around and he gets back into the cave. Again, now he stumbles in the darkness until he reaches his tied up friends and family. And then he tells them about what he sees outside. And they are so upset with him. They want to beat him up, and some of them want to kill him. They don't want to listen to him. They don't want to believe. They are just quite content with what they're seeing in the shadow in the back of the cave. So
They
anyhow,
don't want to come, don't want to acknowledge the existence of the light.
well, yeah, they don't want to because they're so comfortable with what they're conditioned with that, and they are so interested in the shadows and the echoes. that they don't want to hear what this person has to say. So
Got
that
it.
is
Hmm.
so anyhow. So that's the thing that so anyhow. So studying the ancient Greeks, ancient Chinese, ancient Vedic civilizations are very very useful. I thought bringing them together, even the Western Enlightenment, bringing them together to form an understanding of what are the dimensions of worldview, right? Um, that underpin character, and then have an informed decision about meaning and purpose of character education, meaning and purpose of existence. I think that's really really important.
It sounds to me like your doctoral thesis is very, very strongly anchored in finding me.
Yes, ultimately it's identity, because our identity, and identity doesn't take place in silos. Identity is always in relationship to something.
Yeah.
Your daughter, because there's the mother. Your
Socially constructed.
it is in relationship. There's
Yeah.
always a relationship, but these are temporal identities, right? They are identities which are shifting over time. But there must be an identity which is enduring, because if there is no enduring identity, then there will be no enduring purpose and meaning.
Deep, but true. But true. Deep and true. Okay, so that was your doctoral thesis. I get the impression, and I'm sure that you're going to ace it and defend it beyond beyond any doubt. That's the impression I get. Yes, from what you say and the way you approach it and the elements that you incorporated in your thesis. All the best for that, Aris.
Thank you, Mira.
So, what are your plans for Spiriton Renaissance in the next 5 years?
That's like $1 trillion question.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I don't have any plans actually, but I mean that's honest, right? I don't have any plans. But what I hope to be able to work in is, first of all, interfaith dialogue with science as a medium. So it's not just interfaith, but interfaith with science, right? So scientific element to interfaith dialogue. Next is to develop education material which incorporates both science and spiritual paradigms, which we talked about, which I did in my thesis. And um, I think these are two main things. I mean, those are the foundation of other things. I mean, we could do so many other things. We could do reach out. Mental health could be an issue, a major thing, because mental health normally is looked at either just purely from a religious perspective, or sometimes purely from just a mechanistic, chemical, brain, neurological perspective. But you got to bring in both all dimensions and understanding the mind. The mind is such an important element in our existence, and a lot of times people think it's just an epiphenomenon of the brain, which is not actually, right. So that's something which needs to be addressed. I think Spiriton, through Spiriton, that could be done. But I don't really know what it's going to be like in 5 years, because we don't even know where we're going to be in 5 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some you plan something, and the greater power has got something else planned. Okay, so how do you see your PhD, your doctoral thesis, or your PhD qualification? How do you see that fitting into your vision for Spiriton?
I The PhD journey has been helpful in broadening the scope of my uh, understanding of different worldviews. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah,
And looking at elements from the different scholars and philosophers and you know, books that I've read that can be synthesized and presented at different levels. Because a lot of time, a lot of work in academia is just stuck in a twilight zone,
Yes.
right? You need to bring it down to a level where it is accessible to people,
And practical.
practical, yeah, something which people can hold on to and
Something
and use,
tangible.
yeah, tangible for them. You see in their life that they can refer to, they can feel, hey, I can use this in my day-to-day interactions, right? So so to 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 really fine tune the concepts and have practical examples of for application, right? You can say like a toolbox, toolkit. I don't like to use those because you don't want to, but just examples, right? Like something which can be referred to for as a manual, I would say,
Mm.
right?
Or a
So
guide.
like a guide, yeah. So that could be one thing, and games. You see, this is one thing that we don't realize, that the different activities that we do in school, although it seems fun and innocuous, right, but actually might have so much deeper ramifications which might be detriment to the, 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 the aspiration for peace and harmony in society. I give you an example, simple example. We all play musical chairs when we're kindergarten, right?
Yes.
Now, if you remember, it's like say 10 children, 9 chairs, la la la, di di, right? And then music stops. What happens?
You know, this musical chairs thing, in my opinion, promotes the scarcity mindset, no? And
Yes,
the win-lose mindset. If I want to win,
exactly.
somebody else has to die.
Yes, which is very bad. And we're teaching that to kids at a very young age,
Yes.
right? So if you were to change that, right, to 10 children, 9 chairs, music stops, no one goes out, you have to share the 9 chairs. Then you just remove the chair, don't remove the child. Then you have 10,
Excellent. What a
10,
what a genius idea. Remove the chair, don't remove the child.
10 children,
Exactly.
10 children with 8 chairs, 10 children with 7 chairs, and finally 10 children with 1 chair, and see what happens. The whole dynamics will change. So we need to come up with more of these kind of. I mean, there are people who are doing it actually. I'm not the one who came up with this idea, right? But my point is that this is really important, right? And we have to rethink what are the underpinnings, the philosophical underpinnings behind the different activities that we do in school. What are we promoting? Are we promoting an economic model of education, a factory model,
Capitalist model.
capitalist model, social efficient model, that kind of thing, right? Are we promoting something which, because if we are talking about peace and harmony, if that's the objective of all the economic development, so there is no crime, because we want people to be peaceful, right? The peace cannot take place just for externally, it has to take place from within. Then it
Yes.
can exude. It cannot say, okay, let's have peace by a truce, right? Let's have a treaty. But the people up inside us, internally, they are upset. They are in turmoil, right? How are they going to ratify or keep up with that peace? External, so-called superficial peace. It can't survive. It can't last. So if we are serious about it, if the educators around the world, if the politicians around the world, right, are serious about the betterment of the world, betterment of themselves, then we have to rethink um, the direction that we're heading, and it starts with education in schools from the young.
It has been a very enlightening discussion, Aris, with you. Very, very enlightening. I love. I'm stuck. I'm sort of like my mind is stuck on the board game, Bhagavad Gita board game. I'm going to check it out now. What is your definition of owning your career?
Okay, I really don't have a career if you think about it.
No, career not as in what other people define. Career is whatever you define it to
Okay,
be.
okay, yeah, good. So that's a very important question. So we all have our natural affinities that are endowed upon us, and discovering them and utilizing them properly is really what's important. It's not about which job gives you the most amount of money, because if that becomes the goal, then you will never be happy with it, right? So the people who do what's they are naturally endowed with, they will be contented and they will flourish in what they do. And I think that's really the find me comes back. Interestingly, that's the theme that has been
Yes.
returning.
Y-
That is really, really important. And seeing ourselves in the bigger picture of the world about in creation, that's really, really important. It's not just find me and I just stay in my rabbit hole. It is me and my connection or my place in this whole cosmos and what is my role. I think that's really, really important because then otherwise it can breed um, narcissism because it's just about me.
Yeah.
We need to avoid that ego, logical approach.
Yes, ego logical, not me in relation to my family or my country or my loved ones. Beyond that, beyond barriers created by
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
You in relation to the universe.
yeah. To because actually there is a commonality in all beings, and that commonality is as a spiritual dimension of life, which is lacking in the education system. So the education system, if we really want to be secular, true secularism has to incorporate or be inclusive of theistic as well as non-theistic paradigms. Not just saying theism is out of the secular picture. No, that's not true secularism. True secularism means you're incorporating all paradigms, theistic as well as non-theistic. Then there can be a balanced approach of understanding our place. Otherwise, it'll still be one-sided, it'll be biased, it'll be prejudiced, and it'll be incomplete.
We are incomplete, striving to be complete with material things. Unfortunately, we have to cross this realm of materialism and try to find or attempt to find the completeness within ourselves first. And I just love the way you began your journey, and then you have ended up with this, what you just said, so beautifully explained, eloquently explained. Thank you, Eris. Thank you so much. Before we close, sorry.
No, thank you for having me on your show.
Not yet, not yet. I'm not letting you off so soon. No, no, no. Before we close, what would you like to tell our viewers?
Be true.
Explain, please.
Be true to ourselves. I think that is the biggest challenge in our lives because of. But true, I have to qualify what being true is. Because we have to be true and we have to be open. So there's two things here. Because we say, I'm true to myself, I'm true to myself, and you can be selfish, right? But you got to be introspective about the greater meaning and purpose of life beyond just because we are all conditioned in our context in different milieus that we are in, right? So I have my own worldview, you have your own worldview, someone else has their own worldview because of the social institutions that we find ourselves in, from
Yeah.
birth to family, in society, in schools that we go to, religious organizations that we are at, we have to be true to that spirit of our conscience. I think that's really important. Once we lose our conscience, then and we once we lose our conscience, we like I like to say what Lee Kuan Yew said. I don't know whether you're familiar with what he said. I know LKY used to be Lee Kuan Yew was the first prime minister, founding prime minister of Singapore. Anyhow, he used it in a different context, but I liked what he said. He talked about power and the use of power or the abuse of power. He compared it to love making. I know it's quite a. I don't know whether you heard that, but it's
No, if I heard, I
quite
can't
strong.
remember. So
He
please.
said that the first time, the first time he said it's always going to be some barrier, some apprehension, some guilty feeling. But after the first time, it becomes like a normalized thing because that conscience is gone. So we need to always have that conscience, right? And we need to understand that we don't know everything. We can't, we are just an atomic spark in this whole universe. I mean, I'm sitting here in Singapore, you're sitting there in Geneva, and just in the city that we are just one out of like many. And in the
Countless.
countless, and in terms of the number of living beings, it's even more, right? And the whole planet Earth is just one part of the whole universe,
Yes.
right? So we are just a small part of existence,
Creation.
creation,
Creation.
existence, right? But if we think that we know everything, right, that would be our. Oh, am I still there?
You are still here. I can hear you, but your smile is, yeah, now I can, you're not frozen any
So
longer.
yeah, so we need to be open to learning, opening to the wisdom from from others, from above, from within, right? We need to not be closed in our mindsets. And I think that's where the scientific paradigm is very important, where it talks about openness, right? A lot of time the spiritual paradigms might be very close in their thinking. But true spirituality is not like that. But in general, we find that in the world. So we need to be true to ourselves. We need to be anchored also in some practice, some spiritual discipline, but without being prejudiced of others.
Yeah.
I think that's also very important, right? So if we could learn from each other, that would be very very useful in our progress for truth, right? And ultimately, our reason why we want to have truth is because of peace, and peace, then we can have happiness. So I'll end with a quote of Bhagavad Gita, for instance. When
Please, but slowly and louder
okay,
so that it's crystal clear.
it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, right? How can there be happiness without peace? So we are looking for happiness. The basis has to be peace, and peace means balance, equanimity, right? Within, right? So that whole striving for happiness has to be on a solid basis. It's not something which is temporal, which is a fad which keeps changing over time. It's got to be something which is enduring, and that's something which we need to find. Then we be peaceful. Yeah. I don't know. That's my view of it.
No, it's
And
so beautifully put. Honor your conscience. Be conscious from within first. Everything starts from within first. I learned a lot, Aris, and I'm so glad and grateful that you came on board and shared your journey with us. It has been truly inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you, Mira.
Is there anything else you'd like to see before we actually close?
Now, if you want to find out more about Dr. Singh and his works, is amazing.
Dr.
Um,
T.D. Singh.
yes, Dr. T.D. Singh, Bhaktivedanta Institute. Um, this book is actually practically amazing because he got Nobel laureates who are scientists as well as spiritualists to come together to actually talk about how there can be a change in the direction that the world is heading, so that it's for the betterment of everyone. Yeah. So think about that.
Definitely. We will check out. I'm sure our viewers will check out as well. And you've given me a lot to think about, a lot to reflect on, and a lot to be grateful for. So, Aris, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Wishing you likewise, Mira. Thank you so much.